what's going on everybody? This is G The Hypersapien, and in this video I'm going to have a look at easy to build Ironjawz Ironskull boys. Now this is an easy to build kit. It's for Citadel miniatures. So let's have a look at the back. So you get these awesome looking auric. Now you get the big bad himself. You get good old Two-Face, Mr. Platehead. And you get a Smasher, which are these. You get a Chopper, which is that. He has an awesome Hannibal Lecter looking mask. And then don't forget this little fella up here. Not so little fella. Now the suggested paint scheme, they just show you the yellow. They don't obviously show you the blacks and the bluish black, the fur and the skin. So Citadel suggested paint scheme. Easy to build. Expertly designed plastic Citadel miniatures assembly and painting required. Contents may vary. You get all the copyrights and all the manufacturers. So easy to build is a push fit. You don't need glue, but me personally, I still like to glue them. Now we'll bust this open and we'll have a look. You get 2 sprues with the Boyz on it. Now, Ironskull Boyz. So before assembling your model, they always suggest to read this. So we got the big bad himself, gthehypersapien Ironskull. So 1A is 15 and 14. Clip out those pieces and slot them together, but I'd still suggest to put some glue to have a nice snug fit, just so you know these aren't going to come apart. Now 1B, you get 1A and 16. So 1A is the 2 pieces you just made, and you put his cape on his back, and then you slot him onto 19, which is the base. It's already textured and has some terrain and whatnot on it. Then you get 1B, which is 1A and 1B together now, which is now 1C. You put 17, his face, and 18, his arm. And then you have gthehypersapien Ironskull himself. Looks beast as. I love his cape and his fur. That pose is awesome as well. He's ready for war. Now we get Bone Cutter 2A. So 10 and 11. Clip them pieces out. Put them together. Then 2B. So you get 2A, which you just assembled. Put them on 13. So you make a note that they're his feet there. You put the pegs into it, which are his legs. The pegs go into his foot or feet. And you assemble him. Not forgetting piece 12 is his face. Now you have good old Hacker. So he's piece 1 and 2. 3A. 3B is obviously these 2 bits again, which is A. And you get 3, which is his arm with his chopper. So like before, piece 4 is his base, which has his feet on there. So just make sure you direct him the right way. Just make sure he's facing forward with his feet in the right direction. And yeah, with this part, his face is attached to his arm. So then you have them 2 boys. Then last you have Basher 4A. So you get 5 and 6, clip them off, put them together. 4B is 4A down there. You get piece 7, which is his other hand. So you put that onto his side. Piece 8 is his head. Slip that into the little slot there with the peg. Now 4A. And then you will have the assembled basher. And then the last piece is 9. That's his base, in the same scenario again. Make sure he's facing the right way, his feet forward, body facing forward, and then you have an assembled basher. Now I'll show you Ironskull's Boyz stats, just in case you're interested in seeing what they are. And you just have different countries. So at the back of the booklet, they do show you the rest of the colour scheme. So you got your metals, you got your armour plate, you got your flesh, you got your fur, and then of course the yellow armour. So that's Ironskull's Boyz. Now I won't build all 4, but I'll build Garzag Ironskull for you. So you get a pair of clippers. You make sure the clippers are against the model and this little tab here. Now with the feet, they have those pegs that I mentioned earlier. So you don't want to snap the peg off. So make sure you snap and you leave the peg. But you leave the peg. So again, snap, go against that. This part here is chopper. You want to have the clippers flat and flush to the chopper. Cut there. And then near his fur pelt, just want to snap towards the end of that, push it. So you just want to snap there. Place the clipper against the body and snap. So that's piece 15. Now we look for piece 14. So you have the number and it's closest to the piece of miniature that you want to cut. So again, we'll start here. So now you want to make sure you slide your clippers just in between these 2 parts. Make sure it's flat and flush against the miniature. Snap. Now here, same again. You want to go either side of that little tab. Clip there. Now just one more piece. Make sure you don't take off any of the model. Snap there. And now you have this. Now they suggest to push together. So you get a peg here and a peg there. So you want to go into the 2 holes there. So the way these push fit work is once you've got the 2 pegs in, you put pressure and you push this into place. But I'm actually going to glue this together. So just so it fits even more flush and nice and won't come apart. So what we're going to do is put a bit of this plastic glue just around where the joins are going to meet. So you want to put a bit in this hole, want to put it all around where the model's going to meet. So in these peg holes, just along the top here. Now you don't want to put on too much, but it'll help seal the join. So that should be more than enough. Now we're going to put them together. So that peg and that peg. Give them a bit of a push. See, this is the problem with push fit. They don't seem to fit that well. I find a lot of time there's gaps. But what we're going to do is I'm going to clean this little bit up with a hobby knife. And this little bit with a hobby knife. So this is another step they don't really tell you to do. So when you cut off the sprue, pretty much there's always going to be a little bit of leftover that most hobbyists would like to clean up. Mould line here where it joins, so I like to clean that up as well. Just if you put a wash or dry brush or something later on, it's going to be quite visible. Now you can see a mould line down here as well, so be careful, but use the hobby knife to clean that up as well. At the bottom of the chopper here, you want to try and remove some of this. You want to try and make it flat, not have all this texture on it. It also has a bit of a mould line going through it. Now I'd say this is a part of his armour, but you can see it does go along the weapon all the way up here and under here. So I'll try my best to show you that on camera. Again, you can get a mould line remover as well if you preferred. Less accidents, I guess, but a hobby knife is okay. Also the back of the weapon. Also the back of the weapon here needs to clean up. And you want to go across this, get rid of that mould line. Also that little bit of plastic there where it clipped off the sprue. The top of the weapon has a mould line here. So you just want to go around and have a look if there's any mould lines or any little bits like this that have, or any bits like this where it's come off the sprue and it's left a little bit of a mark. So I'll go around and do that and then I'll show you. Sure, I've got all the mould lines. Now just to point out, it's a little bit tricky to get under here because the mould line goes all around the chopper. Mould lines, just keep that in mind. The knife didn't really have an issue, but had to obviously come down here and slightly rounds the blade. Now for that gap, now I'm going to try a different plastic glue, to me an extra thin cement, and normally this is pretty good for gaps. So it has a nice little brush. Try not to get in your way. Don't want to overload the brush too much. Try and fit it in between the gap. And then if we push it together, as you can see, as it's joining, you want to hold it in place for a little bit, but it should get rid of those gaps. So you want to hold this for maybe 10 seconds or something. Put a bit of pressure on it, not too much. but it should fill those gaps. Now as you can see, those gaps have gone now. You might think the gap's there, but it's not. I can see it in person, it's not there. That's just where the glue's wet. Now I'll show you again. They've got a gap in his body here. Now this glue isn't as harsh as the other one, so if you do make a bit of mistake and get it on its body, it's less likely to eat away at the plastic than the last glue that I was using. So again, you want to hold this in place, and eventually it will stick these two bits together even better than before. So I'll stick these two pieces together and it won't have that gap there anymore. Now I'll do this little bit here as well. So if you can see, the armour there has a bit of a gap. And just in the side here, where the chainmail meets the armour plates. So as you can tell, like magic, those gaps start disappearing. See, there was a gap here before. It's pretty much gone. There's a gap in between the chainmail and the plate armour there. So that's a way to get rid of all those gaps that look ugly otherwise. So now we can move on to the next stage. So now we have to get 16 and 19. So 19 is his base, has a nice plague bearer head on his base. So you want to get the clippers. You want to go as close to the base as you can, the end of this little tab clip. Now you want to go as flat as you can to the rim of the base, because otherwise it will leave too much of this little bit of a tab on there. And then the last little bit of tab, that's the base. And the next part is 16, is his cape. So you want to snip. So you want to snip against the cape and the tab there. You want to snip here. You want to snip that bit. Sometimes it's easier to turn it over just to see where the clip is more. So you want to clip this little part here. You want to clip the last part here. Again, you want to have a bit of cleanup. So if you're younger, you want to get someone to give you a hand with this. So you don't have to do too much, you just want to clip or cut off that little bit of extra. Just run the knife up there just to smooth that out. And as you run the knife, it'll have all these little bits of plastic come off. So I'll show you again, just here. You want to run the knife just gently over there. You want to clean up all this bit. You don't want to be painting and have all this bits of plastic getting into your paint. So as you can tell, see, that's now smooth. Come this way as well. You can do the same there. You can do the same there. You can see it's now there's a little bit here. You just want to try and, without going into the miniature, just clean up what you can. Most of it comes off with a couple of strikes of the blade. Just be gentle and run it up here like this. Just want to run your finger across it just so you can feel if it's smooth. If it's smooth, then you're pretty much in business. Even if it doesn't look that smooth, as long as your finger feels it and it doesn't have any raised bits, that feels nice. Might look a bit weird, but once you put paint on it you won't notice. As I say, run your finger on it and it feels nice and smooth. And the last bit, here, you want to just run your finger on that. You just want to go around and see if there's any mould lines or anything, which doesn't really look like there is. You want to just try to clean up. You don't want to do it too much at the base because it might warp the circular rim. So as you can see, there's a little bit here though, so just do as I'm doing. As I say, if it feels flat, it normally is. See a little bit here. Run the blade as close to it as you can. Maybe a couple of times over it like this. And that's it. Now we can glue him to the base. So we want to put a bit of glue on the pegs at the bottom there. You want to make sure his body's facing the same direction as the front of the fate. Slides in nicely there. Most of the time I'd keep these off the base so you can get to the base more. Unfortunately, the nice skull they put on the base is under his body, but we'll work that out later when we paint. And we want to put on his cape, I guess. So I'll show you, he has all this detail on his back, but his cape covers it all. But obviously if you can't see it, it's not going to really be an issue. So basically all that detail goes to waste really. But a tip that I'll give, I'm going to leave, not going to glue this on. It fits in nicely. Obviously you'd have to push it to really get it in place. But what I'm going to do is actually leave this off. Not because I necessarily want to get to this. It's because I want to get to inside his cape. I want to do all of this. Because if you see, it's going to be hard to get in here and add detail. A lot of it's covered, and yeah, you won't be able to see a lot of it. But also, how are you going to get right into these creases here? So my little tip would be, obviously this side's easy to get to, but leave this off. There's a few ways you could do it, but some people pin them to corks or whatever. But what I'd do is put it on a bit of Plu-Tack onto a old paint pot or something like that, and then you can spray it obviously you want to turn this so you get the part that was against the blue tack. But then once you've sprayed it all nicely, just make sure you spray one side or even this side and this side. Let it dry, make sure it's dry, otherwise you'll have fingerprints, and then move it and get the part that you couldn't get to with a spray can or airbrush or whatever. But once you've done that, you know, say do it like that or whatever, and you'll be able to paint all of this really nicely. Take your time and then glue it to his back. At least that's the way that I'm going to do it. So you can choose how you want. You can push fit them without glue. You can do whatever, but I'm just showing you how I do it. So now the last two pieces, 17 and 18. So 17 is his awesome, beautiful looking, handsome face. So you just want to go push this against his chin. So it's nice and flush. There's his head. And the last is his other glorious chopper. So you want to have that flat against the bottom of his chopper. Snip. You want to come round. Have that flush against his chopper. Snip. Now he's got a bit of a peg. He's got a bit of a peg here. You don't want to snip that off, so just above the peg. Snip. Now just like before, he's going to have this mould line going down his axe. That's where we clipped it off. It's left a little bit of... So you want to do that and then just smooth it out. But this is going to come all the way down his weapon, all the way down his arm, and then also a little bit underneath. So just go round and find the mould line. It's basically one line. See, it starts here. It's going to go all the way around here, here, here. You see the line moving up there, the bottom of this. And I'll try and do on camera the actual chopper. So as you can see, now this blade has been used for a while, so it's not too sharp, so these can be quite sharp, so it's probably better to use this one that's a little bit blunter, just so there's no accidents. So as you can tell, it becomes quite smooth after. I'm going to go around and do all of this. Now we'll just check the head. Now it's kind of faint, but there is an actual line here. So we want to just run that gently around his head, not going too mad. You don't want to cut his ear off or something. So as you can tell, it's nice and smooth now. So I ran the knife around his ears gently. Now all his cheek and all that stuff is quite good. There's no lines there. The only other part that I'll point out is where his chin was joined to the sprue. So just gently, you want to smooth out that little bit of rough texture. Now it looks like a lot's coming off, but it's not. It's just a little bit. And again, if it feels smooth to your fingers. What an awesome sculpt the old Gerzag is though. So now we'll get a little bit of glue just on the tip and the sides of his head. Just want him to slide in here. So just in this join here, I'm going to put some of the extra thin cement just to help seal this little gap here above his head, and under it's not too bad. Just to fill that gap, because when it comes to painting, they're just going to look a bit ugly. So this doesn't need to be there. Now his other hand goes into this hole here. Now I might keep off this hand, we'll see how much it covers of him. So yeah, this hand I'm going to keep off just so I can get to his, he's got teeth, so he's got teeth around his necklace, and just so I can get to this armour. Now I shouldn't have any issues gluing this on later once it's painted, because that hole and this slides in quite nicely. So yeah, I'm going to keep these two parts off, but that's my preference. You can leave them on, glue them or whatever if you want to. That's Gerzag. Now if you just do the same steps that I've shown you with the rest of the warband, you shouldn't have any issues. The other ones will be less complicated than his, because they have less parts. And just make sure you go around and clean all the mould lines I've shown you on the rest of the miniatures. Then you'll have a complete set of Ironjawz Ironskull's Boyz, good old Gerzag himself here. Awesome miniatures. I'm not the biggest fan of easy to build, just because I prefer the non-push fit ones. Games Workshop seems to be making a lot of stuff push fit these days. There's a little less customization behind it. Like a lot of other kits, they'll give you different heads and whatnot, so you can kind of be creative a bit more. But overall, I really wanted Ironskull's Boyz, especially for Gerzag here. I just love this miniature, the way he looks, his action pose, and the cape with the fur and his face. It's an awesome little miniature. So yeah, thanks for watching this review and build along. Now as always, I appreciate you watching and hope you enjoyed it. This was G The Hypersapien. Catch you later.